Hello students, how are you? I hope you all are fit and fine. So dear students, as you know that we have finished the explanation of chapter 1, the last lesson, and today we are going to discuss questions and their answers which are given in your NCERT book. But before starting the discussion of question answer, let us go through the short summary of the lesson. So, we have seen this lesson is set during Franco-Prussian War. This lesson was written is set during Franco-Prussian War. In this story, the narrator is little Franz. Little Franz, a student. This narrator two districts of France, Alsace and Lorraine, have passed into Prussian hand as the war between France and Prussia was Prussia or Prussia, both are correct. Prussia was going on, and in that war, these two districts of France, Alsace and Lorraine, were passed into Prussian hand, were captured by Prussia. So how it impacted on school? What was the impact? How did it affect the school education? This is what have been given in this story. And also the language chauvinism by a teacher has been shown in this chapter very beautifully. So the chapter is set during Franco-Prussian War, in which France was defeated and Prussia captured Alsace and Lorraine, these two districts of France, and they banned there the teaching of French language. So the main character of the story, M. Hamel, is a teacher of French. So he had to deliver his last lesson that day, because after that day the new teacher of German would be there in the school. In this story, little Franz started very late for the school that day, because he had a great fear. He was in a great fear of being scolded by his teacher M. Hamel, as M. Hamel had given him to learn the rules of participles, but Franz did not learn the single word. When Franz reached the school, he found the school was very quiet. There was no noisy activity as usually it used to happen there. That day the school was as silent as Sunday morning. So Franz could not understand why was it so. He also saw some more unusual things, as the villagers, the old houser, the old postmaster, they were sitting at the back benches. So when MML announced the class that it was his last lesson which he was teaching there, and he also discussed about the order which came from Berlin about ban on teaching of French language. Then France came to know why was it happening, why the village people were sitting at the back of the class at the desk which used to be empty usually. So during his last lesson he held responsible everyone for not learning the French language. He also expressed his love for his language. According to him, French was the most clearest and logical language in the world. So finally he wrote on the board, "Vive la France," means France live long France. Then he made a gesture and dismissed the class. So thus, dear students, in this story, language chauvinism has been shown. A teacher's love for language has been shown, and how when a country becomes enslaved, how does its education gets affected. It has been shown in this story. So now let us discuss questions and their answers. Let me write down the question and their answers on the board. Question number 1. What was France? What was France expected to be prepared? Expected to be prepared. What was France expected to be prepared with for school? Prepared with for school that day. Prepared with for school that day. What was France expected to be prepared with for school that day? So as we have seen in the story, let us write down the answer. So France was expected to be prepared with the rules of participles, as he was given in homework to learn the rules of participles. Let us write it down. France was expected was expected to be prepared with France was expected to be prepared with the rules of participles, his French teachers, rules of, we can write this way, participles. If you want to write it in single inverted comma, you can write this way too. Rules of participles. So France was expected to be prepared with the rules of participles, which he was given by his French teacher and Hamel. France was expected to be prepared with the rules of participles, which he was given by his French teacher and Hamel. Okay, so it's all about the answer according to question. In question it has been asked, what was France expected to prepare with for school that day? So France was expected to be prepared with the rules of participle, which he was given by his French teacher and Hamel that day. Okay, so it's all about question number 1 and its answer. Let me write down the next question. What did France notice? Question number 2. What did France notice that was unusual about What did France notice that was unusual about the school that day? About the school what did France notice that was unusual about the school that day? Now answer. France, when France, when France reached school, when France reached school, he found the school was as silent as Sunday morning. When France reached school, he found the school was as silent as Sunday morning. There was no bustle and regular commotion. There was no bustle and regular commotion. When France reached school, he found the school was as silent as Sunday morning. There was no bustle and regular commotion in the school. So you will be writing this answer if it is asked in short answer type question. If it is a long answer type question, so you need to explain each and everything. You need to explain what did France see in the classroom. Okay, how the village people were sitting there, how the class was very quiet, what happened in the class, how he had to enter the class, how blushed he was. So these things you need to mention if it is long answer type question. But if it is short answer type question, so you have to write only this much. The answers which I am writing here, these are only sample answers. You have to write all the answers in your own words, as you have read the whole story in the text. Okay, so we are just discussing the answers. You can write all the answers in your own words. Here I recommend you to write down all the answers in your own words. So let me rub it. Now, next question. Question number 3 from your NCERT book. We are discussing the textual questions. What had been put up on the bulletin board? Question number 3. What been put up on the bulletin board. Put up on the bulletin board. What had been put up on the bulletin board? So we all know that the order which had come from Berlin for banning of the teaching of French language, it was put up there. So when the two districts of Alsace and Lorraine, when the two districts of Alsace and Lorraine, when the two districts of Alsace and Lorraine were passed into or were captured by Prussia or Prussia, two districts of France. Here we should write two districts of France. When the two districts of France, Alsace and Lorraine, were captured by Prussia, the order for banning of the teaching of French came from Berlin. When the two districts of France, Alsace and Lorraine, were captured by Prussia, the order for banning of the teaching of French in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Okay, here you should write in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Here you have to add in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine came from Berlin, and the same was put up, and the same was put up, and the same was put up on the bulletin board. The same was put up on the bulletin board. Okay, dear students. So when the two districts of Alsace and Lorraine were captured by Prussia, the order for banning of the teaching of French in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine came from Berlin, and the same was put up on the bulletin board. Okay, let me rub it, and let us now discuss the questions which are given on page number 8. Question number 1 from page number 8. What changes did the order from Berlin? What changes did the order from Berlin What changes did the order from Berlin cause in school? Cause in school. What changes did the order from Berlin cause in school that day? What changes did the order from Berlin cause in school that day? So as we have just discussed, the order which was came from Berlin, it was about banning of teaching the language, burning of teaching French language in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. So that is why it was banned. The teaching of French was banned in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Now French teachers of Alsace and Lorraine had to go somewhere else, had to leave that district, as there would be only teaching of German there. In this story, M. Hamel is the affected person who was giving his last lesson because he had to leave his country that day. Okay? So dear students, go through the story, go through the lesson, revise them, and then write all the answers in your own words. Answers should be written in your own language after going through the lesson. The answers which we are discussing, these are only model answers. These are only model answers. So frame the sentences grammatically correct, and you have to rewrite answers to these questions which we have discussed in your notebook. So it's all about today's video. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow, and tomorrow we will be discussing the rest questions from this lesson.